Hello, everybody. My name is Nykolai Blichar. I'm super excited to be here with all of you today and celebrating the 60th anniversary of Freedom Summer. It truly is an honor to really be able to join all of you to talk to you about my topic today. Feel free to drop in the chat your name and what college you're from. Really would like to see kind of where everybody's coming from. I know we have students and ambassadors from all across the country joining us today. So I'm really excited to see that. In the meantime, I'm going to pull up my presentation and I am going to put in present. Okay, can everybody see that? Mia, can you give me a thumbs up? It's good to go. All right, great. So as I mentioned before, my name is Nykolai Blichar. I am a former Andrew Goodman Foundation ambassador for Vote Everywhere. I was an ambassador from 2016 to 2017. And I'm currently a campus champion at Northampton Community College, which is located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I also previously was a campus champion at Kutztown University, which was my alma mater where I graduated. So my hope for today is really to talk a little bit about what my experience was like and why I got engaged in AGF, really the skills and things that I benefited from by being a part of the program, and really to help you understand how to maximize your experience and your time by being an AGF ambassador. So I kind of wanted to do a quick poll with everybody real quick to kind of gauge what motivates you to be civically engaged? Why are you here doing this work as we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of Freedom Summer? What attracted you to do these things? Why are you an ambassador? So I do have a poll, and I think Mia, are you able to bring that up for us?
Let's see, is it in the pre-managed?
Okay. I think.
If you want, we could also put answers in the chat.
Okay, so the questions I have for the poll and the prompt, what motivates you to be civically engaged? So I have a couple responses for you to put in the chat if you want to just type it there. Making a difference in your community, influencing political decisions, personal growth and development, all of the above, or if there's something else that the reason you got engaged, feel free to put that in the chat. All of the above, personal growth and development, great. Making a difference in your community is so important. Awesome. So we're seeing a lot of themes of making a difference in the community. Personal growth is really important, right? Started when you realized your peers were not voting in the 2020 election and felt a call to action. I think that's so important, especially in this election where more young people will be eligible to vote than ever before. Making a difference. So, right, the common theme here that we're seeing is this idea of wanting to make a difference, wanting to have an impact in your community. And a lot of you are really the heart and soul of your local communities where you're embedded, whether it be at your college, which in and of itself is its own local community, but also in your hometowns and in your local regions. And so part of what I'm going to share with you is my personal journey and my story of how I got engaged in this work and then ultimately what resulted from that. And one of the things that I do in leadership programs that I teach at Northampton Community College is this idea of storytelling and the power of using storytelling to share one's personal journey to kind of create a level playing field and help people understand where you're coming from, right? And many of you might share your personal journeys wherever you are in your life. And so I took this quote here from Tahir. Stories are a communal currency of humanity. It's a way we share who we are with each other, better understand where we are coming from in our place and time. So I have a bunch of pictures up on this slide, but these are a bunch of pictures that I found throughout my time being an Andrew Goodman Foundation ambassador, some of the work that I did as an undergraduate student as a result of that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find all the pictures that I wanted to put, but these were just some of them. So to give you a little context about myself, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, very much not some of the most open-minded areas of the state. And so, my family struggled a lot when I was younger. If it were not things like Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, and housing assistance, I don't think I would have gotten to where I was and would have been able to get to college. And also in my small community, once I reached my senior year of high school, I came out. And so through all of those experiences, I started to realize the real importance that government has on an impact on our daily lives, right? From the way we're able to live, to the rights that we have. And so when you're part of these communities and experiencing these things, you really gain an appreciation for how much you can have an impact on policies and the things that you're working on. And so prior to going to college, I was never engaged. I didn't never joined a political campaign. I wasn't involved in anything in particular, but I was hyper into politics, and the idea of protecting democracy. And so eventually I got to Kutztown. Done a lot of activism around LGBT issues on campus, advocating for gender inclusive housing and gender neutral bathrooms and a chosen name policy. But then this opportunity came up. It was the spring semester, reaching towards the end of it in 2016. We were full-fledged into a presidential election, as many of you recall, when Donald Trump was running against Hillary Clinton. And so I saw this opportunity and I was really curious to learn, okay, what is it like to do nonpartisan work? And what does nonpartisan work mean on a college campus and in the greater context of an election? And so I was hyper motivated. I decided one day, I'm just going to go talk to the director of our student involvement office and see, can I gain this opportunity? And fortunately, I did. But, I think we hear a lot and probably have been hearing this for the last how many elections. Um, every election seems to be like a consequential election, right? This is the most important election of our time. But genuinely, truly, at the time in 2016, I really did feel like that was a consequential election. And for me, what was really standing out and why I wanted to get engaged with this work was because of the rise of misinformation and disinformation on social media. I had a lot of my peers falling for things on social media and online that were not often true. And the benefit of an organization like this is you have the ability to put the facts out there in a nonpartisan way to students. And so that really motivated me to get involved. But also that summer, I joined from ambassadors from all around the country at an event very similar to this. This is prior to COVID, so we were all in person, but I got to meet leaders in the civic engagement, nonpartisan realm, leaders on civil rights issues, and I got to network with students all over the country doing this work on their campuses. And to me, it showed me the collaborative power that everybody has. And I can tell you to this day, there's still ambassadors that I talk to from back in my day, that give me valuable insights that are also out there doing really, really good work in government, in nonpartisan, nonprofit work, really making sure that our democracy is strong and that we get out the vote. And so with this, I wanted to share some specific examples of how I utilized my ambassadorship to really amplify the work that I wanted to do on our campus and how it provided me the resources and opportunities to do that. And so one of the biggest things that we faced on our campus was a few years prior to me coming to college, our students were facing a serious form of voter suppression. So previously we had a polling place on campus that had existed for some time. And unfortunately, a number of commissioners in our county got elected one year and decided we don't want that polling place at that campus anymore, and decided to move it down a very dangerous highway, non-walkable, to a township building that was all the way on the other end of the township. You would have to go through the main town borough to get to it. And so the challenge that our students were facing was, if I don't have a car, how am I going to be able to get there, right? And so this for me is a nonpartisan issue, right? Students' voting rights, voter suppression was becoming a huge problem because we had students telling us we can't go to get to the polls. I didn't vote because I couldn't get there. And so that was a serious problem. But what Vote Everywhere provides is the resources and the ability to do that nonpartisan work to help educate both the community and students on why it's an issue and why they should mobilize. And so really what we started doing was building the groundwork up. So we started getting students engaged on campus, educating them about why it's a problem and why they should be a part of creating the solution. And then we also talked to community members. So that was really, really important because community members also help drive a lot of that motivation to then go talk to the county commissioners to get something done about it. Initially, we approached the situation from getting the county to pay for busing to get to the polls, that the county should provide some sort of transportation. And when that failed, our next course of action really was to pressure the county to move the polling place back on campus. And so myself, even though I didn't get to see the full realization of the polling place moved on campus, my experience through the ambassadorship program really helped me understand how to mobilize and build the groundwork so that the next leaders could continue the important work that we started. And so when the next ambassadors came in, we kind of had a framework already set for them to build on where they could then take their leadership. And because we had built relationships in the community and with county commissioners, they were already familiar with our organization and the work that we do. So there was that level of trust that was built with all of us as kind of partners in the community. And so I can be happy to report to you that the polling place is back at Kutztown University on campus. Students have been voting. And back in 2020, right before I came back to be the campus champion there, students were voting in record numbers. They were registering on campus because they knew they had ease of access to their polling place. So that in and of itself is a huge impact of something that you can do through your ambassadorship. And I say that to say that what I want you to use this experience with in your own time is there an issue on campus that you can be a positive advocate and take leadership on in a nonpartisan way? And the great thing about Andrew Goodman is that you have connections to a national network that can provide you with resources. More likely than not, there's probably some other college that faced a very similar situation to you that they probably have either been successful or know how to get the work done. And so this network that you have access to provides the context and resources needed to be successful. And I think that's what's so important to talk about. And another thing that I definitely want to talk about is all our civic engagement events. I think one of those things, from a technical standpoint, you learn how to organize events, right? You learn how to really get the word out there, get a message together to help students better understand their power in an election. But in the meantime, you also get to have those really personal connections and conversations with students. On Andrew Goodman Foundation and being an ambassador really challenged me to think outside the box, right? Think outside of my own scope of perspective, because you have people from all different backgrounds coming to you to get important information so they can exercise their right to vote, but you may not always necessarily agree. And I think gaining that perspective and that open-mindedness for me was one of the most important things I ever experienced. But as a result of some of that work that we were doing, I eventually got to get connected to a national organization called It's On Us that combated sexual violence and domestic violence on college campuses. I got to go to the White House my senior year to visit with Joe Biden on that issue. I was invited to speak with our former governor, Tom Wolf, about LGBTQ rights throughout the state. And even as my time as a campus champion coming back and having already those relationships there at Kutztown, I was able to also go to our legislature to advocate for $1 million in grant money for colleges and universities on food insecurity. And so really your ambassadorship can be maximized in a way that you may not have ever imagined. You might end up in places and spaces that you didn't otherwise think you could end up in because you're building relationships and networks with people through the activism and advocacy that you are doing. And so it doesn't stop there, right? Your AGF experience, and I've learned this over the last several years, does not just stop when you're an undergraduate student. It sometimes, and most times you'll find, will extend much into your life and professional career. I'm now 29. I've been in the professional field for about 6 or 7 years now. And I was asked to run for office because of my experience and the things that I did with AGF. For me, it was something I always wanted to do, but I had never realized how much of an impact that I had on my local community, both in the college and the local region, until I was asked to run. So, unironically, one summer in 2018, it was my first year of grad school. I got a call from another state representative telling me that the candidate for the Democratic Party in our House district in the state had dropped out of the race and they needed a replacement. And what I was very surprised to hear was that a lot of people in the community were actually giving my name and mentioning my name multiple times. I had not realized up until that point that a lot of the work that I was doing locally had made such an important impact on the community and left such an impression on folks um, that I was working with. And so I ended up running in a gerrymandered, very red district where the incumbent had been there for almost a decade at that point. That election for me was always going to be an uphill battle, but I will tell you, I was able to have better conversations, more productive conversations with people that disagreed with me because of my experience as an ambassador with Andrew Goodman Foundation. Because I already did that nonpartisan work before, where I've had conversations with people who support candidates who might have different stances on the issues. I was able to have those very challenging conversations because I was painted as the uber progressive in a very red area, rural Pennsylvania, not too far away from where I grew up. And even still, I relied on my AGF experience heavily in terms of being creative about solving solutions to problems because I ran again in 2020 during a pandemic. I was basically running a campaign for State House from my couch because I wasn't able to knock doors, I wasn't able to host events, and so I had to be very creative in thinking about ways in which I could reach people and still have those important conversations without being able to do it in person. And even to this day, I still have connections to some of our program managers that used to be with AGF. I've had them as recommendations for jobs. They've given me amazing advice when I've needed it. And so, really, this in and of itself, just my personal story and my journey, just goes to show you one example of where you could end up or how this experience can ultimately benefit you outside of your time of being an ambassador. And I know we all live very, very much, especially in today's world, in the day to day, but it's important sometimes to think about how this experience could also impact you in the future and how this experience might be able to benefit you as you move into your professional careers and as you move into kind of your normal, what we would call adulting life. So I'm gonna end my story there, but I do have another thing, so I'm gonna stop this share and I am going to share a different screen. Let's see. All right, there we go. Okay, so with all that said, I kind of want to get to know like what is it that you all hope to gain from your Vote Everywhere experience? So if you go to menti.com, you can enter the code at the top of the screen, or you can scan the QR code if you're watching the Zoom on your computer. You can scan it with your phone and go to the website. But this is a word bubble, so as everybody starts filling it up and populating it, we'll start to see some of the responses. So feel free to take some time to do that, and then we'll chit chat a little bit more.
Hi, folks. Sorry to disturb. I just wanted to hop in and say hello. And I'm going to all the different rooms and just seeing all the amazing conversations. And it looks like you all are having a great one. So just wanted to hop in and say hello. And thank you to all of you for the incredible work you do.
All right. So thank you, Rashawn. It's good to see you. Um, so we're starting to see some words popping up. And the larger the word is, those are common themes that we're starting to see. So the biggest one I see here is community building. And I think your experience at AGF does that. And even in my own personal experience that I just shared a little bit ago, all of that is really, really important, right? Because you're having conversations with everyday people. I like to say, out of a lot of people and a lot of voters, we are probably some of the most in-tuned, engaged people out there. So we tend to be more knowledgeable than the average voter. But people tend to rely on us for information, right? I still find to this day that people come to me and ask me questions or message me on social media because they find me a reliable source for information. And a lot of those skills I learned through my AGF ambassador experience because I understood how to fact check information, how to provide valuable information and valid and truthful information to folks. Another one I see here is leadership, right? Leadership is so key to all of what you're doing. All of you are leaders in your own right on your campuses, leading the charge on this work because it is such important work. And even through the work that you're doing, besides just registering students to vote, helping them get access to mail ballots, helping them understand their voice and power in every election. You also might be taking on some projects or initiatives or challenges that you see on your campus. And so really you're gaining skills through talking to people and through leadership. You're gaining things like empathy, communication, learning how to organize events. You're gaining connections to people. So all of these words that you're putting in here are all interconnected. So my hope is that by seeing this, you all kind of see like how everything ties into each other and kind of what the bigger picture is, that all of this is interconnected and somehow impacts each other. So I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go back to my presentation. There's so many different things on my screen and I'm not used to moving all this stuff around. I got the chat, I got people on the side. All right, so because I shared my personal experience, I want you to take that and just kind of hold that to yourself, but understand that you might have a very different path in life. I'm a hyper engaged political science person when I was an undergrad, so my path might look very, very different from you. Some of you might be political science majors interested in getting into government, public administration, but some of you might be business majors or marketing majors who have an interest in this work, but might be going into a different field. And so I always want people to think about how are the things that you're doing in the moment on your campuses translate to things that could benefit you in your career. I always like to say to people as a higher ed professional, I would not have gotten to where I am in my career if it were not for the things that I did outside of the classroom. And while in the classroom, it's so important. Yes, we want you to study, get good grades, all of that. Um, Really, those things that you're doing as an ambassador outside on your campus is helping you gain those important skills that are going to be important for you when you go out to apply for jobs professionally. Some of you might be already thinking about that. Some of you might be a long way off from that. So wherever you are in your journey, definitely think about those things from time to time and make note of it. But I can tell you, employers nowadays are looking for soft skills, and your ambassadorship experience provides all of those really, really important soft skills. Um, as you all mentioned in the word bubble, communication, empathy, open-mindedness, learning about diversity, being able to have difficult conversations with people, being creative, organizing, through things like organizing events. So take note of those things as you're doing each and every semester, programming, initiatives, taking on challenges on your campus. Make note of those things. One of the things I used to do was I kept a Word document, and many of you might not be as organized as I am, but I used to write down every event that I participated in, or I helped organize, or I was a part of helping plan. And I wrote down what that experience meant to me because I wanted to keep track of it. I think some people don't realize how easy it is to forget all the things that you did over the past 4 years of your college experience very, very quickly. Because once you become an adult and you get in your professional life, those things start to take hold, and sometimes you forget all of the experiences that you had. But those things, by building kind of some sort of record of what you've done, you're able to look back and say, oh yeah, I remember doing this when I applied for this job. This is how this experience I had ties into what I'm doing now. And I will hammer this home till the day I die. Network, 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 network. You're probably going to hear this a lot in your professional life. Even this conference is a great example of how you could potentially connect with people from all over the country. I have found that most of the things that I've been able to have access to was because I knew somebody who knew somebody. Building those relationships are really, really important. And I don't say networking in a way that it's not genuine, right? Your networking should be genuine relationships that you're building. You've worked with these people. Through AGF, as an example that I gave before, I built relationships with people in the community through my genuine care of the issues. And so I got to know people, and I still have connections to them this day. And by getting to know them, like if there's a challenge I'm facing or vice versa, we can reach out to each other and be collaborative, or say, hey, I know somebody who has access to these resources, who can help you out. And many of you mentioned this already, building a sense of community and purpose. The whole reason I ended up running for state rep in my local area was because I became so tied to the issues and challenges that the folks there were facing that I didn't want to leave. So I still very much live in the Lehigh Valley area. I'm very invested in the things that are happening here. And I think what you'll find is, as you get into the world of politics and civic engagement in your local communities, those communities are pretty tight knit. And eventually you'll start to know this person knows this person, and everybody's kind of interconnected in a way that makes sense, right? But it also gives you a sense of I'm doing something important for my local community that means something to me, and I'm making an impact that's really, really important. And as I mentioned before, career paths can mean a lot of different things. I don't know everybody's major or what they want to do in their life, but